impressive, and I think we get a flavor of how centrality in that environment causes complexity and in turn creativity, and the whole idea that, you know, it's amazing how you can take what John Campbell did and see it in the Lord. It's part of the fun of doing what we're doing. I'm only going to be a minute or two. I'll be 10 minutes. I just want to run through. I want to run through just some of the range of applications, because in some of your considerations, other of these type of things may allow the use of this kind of technology that we're outlining. So the first point is economic cycles. Everybody talks about economic cycles, and we tried to explain a particular set of economic cycles using D over C. And in this case, we used the 5 technological cycles, beginning with the Industrial Revolution that Carlotta Perez outlines in her book. So we took those cycles and used D over C to explain it. What I'm going to do is just tell you what the Perez cycle is, take one transition, tell you how we use D over C to explain it. The vertical axis here is the diffusion of this new technology into the economy. And the horizontal axis is time. It begins, and this is Carlotta Perez's, these technologies start, as she calls it, with the Big Bang. So let's talk about the one we're in right now. And that is what she calls the information and telecoms cycle. So the Big Bang is around 1970-71 with the development of the real computer industry. And if you think of this line here, this is when the immediate associated, as Kaufman says, the adjacent possible industries form. And I'm thinking here of the web, the internet, Amazon.com, eBay, Expedia, all those, and all the sub companies happen. So that's the next part of it. Now what happened then, as you all know, was the asset values went way beyond their real worth. And we had what we called an asset bubble, and it became the collapse of the dot-com bubble. The collapse of the dot-com bubble in the financial era is what is meant by the turning point here. So that's, 1999, 2004, something like that. And then we have continuous deployment of this new technology until it permeates the whole industry. You register at a hotel, you go to a restaurant, this technology is everywhere. It's in Flickr and it's in YouTube, it's everywhere. And it's going to the far reaches of the world. So that's the cycle. Let's take the turning point, the financial bubble, as an example. What happens is the business world is suddenly seeing huge increases in earnings, new ideas they haven't heard about before, and there's a great increase in centrality for the financial world to try and digest, which they do. They raise the price of the stock, and we move into a complex financial situation with this increase in centrality. We hear now new ways of financing companies. You read all the articles about it's the new economy, it's not cycles anymore. And then centrality increases, and by now, you talk to almost anybody, they can tell you about this new thing that's happening, and it's going to go up, it's going to have a huge multiple of earnings, and it's going to you get very wealthy if you just bought that. So it gets to that point, you're past complexity, it's in chaos, and you have a collapse of the stock market. So that's the way we explain one part of it. Now we apply DOC throughout the environment of these cycles to show what D over C was doing while the changes I've shown here were happening. So D over C then can be very useful to anybody trying to plan for their organization, let's say for a business corporation. Because the thing that people do in planning for corporations today is to extrapolate last year for a few years, and then look at that extrapolation and try to think, is there any exception, that's going to happen that would change that? What they don't know, and what is hard to put your hands around, is when is there going to be a major change? Because what you really want to know in long-term planning is when is, if you like, the behavioral state of either your market or your economic system going to change. So D over C, by looking at that and finding ways of measuring that, can allow you to anticipate that, and what you probably do is exit the business, or else you'll build up the differentiation to handle the business. Now, we've also studied with lots of, David and I have huge arguments back and forth, but with lots of discussion, we've discussed have two corporate histories. One is Cockshut Plow, which was a very successful Canadian company that came, its demise occurred in about 1960 due to corporate raiders. And Dow Chemical, a company I was with for many, many years, it still is a successful technological company. So we've gone through the history of those companies, from their formation, their development, their difficulties, and tried to explain those in terms, again, of D over C. Here's an outline of Dow Chemical's history. Again, I'm not going to explain the reasons for all the places. The vertical line is D over C. The horizontal line is time. And here, of course, when you're starting any company, it's chaos until you get enough differentiation to handle what it is you're trying to do. In this case, it's very true. The original Dr. Dow, this was his fourth try to try and form a company. Well, I'll move along to the one that says 1960, number 3, and explain that at that time tariffs for chemicals around the world were being lowered, and suddenly what used to be a U.S. chemical company was now faced with competition around the